Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most controversial actions in Dead by Daylight, teabagging. Specifically, I want to talk about whether or not teabagging is or should be considered toxic. Now, based on the thumbnail, you might assume that I am against teabagging. Well, you've activated my clickbait trap card. I actually love teabagging. That's right, I'm here to tell you that I don't believe teabagging is toxic, and before you start losing your minds in the comments, just give it to the end of the video. Watch the whole thing, hear what I have to say, and see if maybe you change your mind. In this video, I want to talk about 3 different types of teabagging: strategy, revenge, and taunting. But first, let's talk a little bit about how other people in the community view teabagging. About a year ago, I posted a video called Getting Killer Salt for the First Time, where I played against a Legion, and they got very upset with me and told me to off myself. In the video, this Legion chases me for 3 gens, and when there's 1 gen left, I do a little teabag before the pallet to try to keep him on me for that final gen, and he does end up getting me down, and then shakes his head, and then he proceeds to try to bleed me out, but what he doesn't know is I have Unbreakable and Adrenaline, and the last gen is very close to popping. So then I get up, and I get away, and then I get to the exit gate, do a couple more teabags because he was shaking his head at me and trying to bleed me out, and that was it. I got out. After posting this video, I received a ton of backlash from people in the comments who ignored the fact that this Legion told me to end my life and instead focused on the 2 times in the match that I crouched up and down. Many of the comments were similar to this one, saying, "You intentionally bullied the killer, you did something for the sole purpose of antagonizing someone else, you are to blame." This person said, "When you psychologically torment someone during a game, you have to be willing to deal with the consequences. It might be cool and funny to you, but it's offensive and degrading." So essentially what people were telling me is that if I'm going to bully people and psychologically torment killers, then I need to be prepared to be told to kill myself. But what if I told you I wasn't bullying that Legion, and it wasn't my goal to psychologically torment him? Oh. The first time that I crouched up and down in front of this Legion at the pallet falls into the first category of teabagging that I mentioned earlier, strategy. The Legion had already chased me for 2 gens, and I wanted to make it 3. I knew my teammates were working on the final gen, so I did a little teabag at the pallet to try to get the Legion to continue chasing me. A lot of times when you teabag at a killer, especially at a pallet, you can get in their head, and they really want to chase you, and it worked. I actually have another recent example of this where I was being chased by a dredge, and mid-chase, I dropped the pallet, did a little teabag after I dropped the pallet, and then left. The dredge continued to chase me, and when I did inevitably get down, the dredge just stayed at the hook. Dredgy boy, 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 dredgy boy. When I did get unhooked in the endgame, the dredge did come directly for me and tunneled me out, which is perfectly fine. My goal was to get my teammates out, and yeah, I died. Nice. GG's. The dredge was a little salty after the match, but hey, at least he didn't tell me to off myself. Going back to the Legion match when I teabagged in the exit gate right before escaping, this falls into the category of revenge. You might remember when the Legion finally did down me, he shook his head at me a bunch and then tried to bleed me out. I don't consider any of this stuff a big deal, and I consider it in-game banter. Like if a survivor teabags, so then the killer hits them on hook or whatever, and if a killer spends the entire match, tunneling a survivor, trying to bleed them out, then the survivor might teabag at the exit gate to say, "Ha, you didn't get me." It's just like a back and forth thing. Like if I'm playing a match as Hag and somebody pallet stuns me and then teabags me after dropping the pallet, when I down that survivor later, I'm gonna teabag them. Because that's how it goes. If somebody teabags while I'm playing Ghostface, I'm gonna teabag them as Ghostface. In my opinion, these interactions make the game more fun. I just enjoy them. I think it's goofy to go back and forth like that, and I think it adds some more stakes to the game, like, oh, this survivor's been kind of messing with me or being cocky, so I'm going to go for them and troll them back, and vice versa. If you have a killer that's been smacking you on hook or hardcore camping or tunneling you, and you manage to escape, let them know. Give them the old bounce. It's all in good fun. And now we have the final category of teabagging, which is taunting. I'm sure we've all had matches where we've played super fair, or maybe we've only gotten 1 or 2 hooks throughout the entire game, and then when the match is over, the survivors just want to sit in the exit gate and teabag, and they want you to watch them leave because they want to taunt you. This is the category that I can most understand people getting frustrated with or wanting to associate it with being toxic, but I still don't think that it's toxic, and let me explain why. The word toxic is so overused in the Dead by Daylight community that it pretty much means nothing, and I think that when you call teabagging toxic, that contributes to that. It contributes to the word toxic having basically no meaning. When you want to call it teabagging, flashlight clicking, saboing, camping, tunneling, slugging, perks, it's all, considered toxic, and it's silly because we shouldn't group all of these things together under the same word when there are actual toxic things and situations that occur in this game, like telling people to kill yourself or viewer shaming or there's a lot of that kind of shit that happens, and I would say that that's toxic. And I feel like when you call things like crouching up and down in a video game toxic, like they're just not the same thing. I feel like words like annoying, immature, unsportsmanlike, those words are far more fitting, if you want to say that that's what they're doing when they're teabagging in the exit gate. But are they really toxic? I don't think so. I think that people call that stuff toxic because they want to paint that person as a bad person or as a toxic human being because they're crouching up and down in a video game. And that's just not true. Are they being a little bit of a shithead? Yeah, maybe, but it doesn't make them a bad person. It's fucking pixels. It's a video game. And another reason I think it's silly to call taunting in a video game toxic is because people taunt each other in professional competitive sports. Whether it's basketball, football, baseball, you have these grown men that are taunting each other and, even teabagging on the field sometimes. And, it happens. People do this. And when people taunt in professional sports, do you hear the sportscasters and announcers saying things like, whoa, did you see that guy? He was being really toxic. Oh, did you see that little dance that guy did? That was really toxic. No, none of them say that. Nobody in the general public says that. Even the developers of Dead by Daylight look at teabagging as a silly thing and not a toxic thing, and that's most game developers. In fact, the creator of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game quote retweeted somebody who was complaining about teabagging, and they said, "We can't penalize someone for crouching." And then they even made a joke saying it's more of a slow jam teabag, more sensual. So, they're cracking jokes about it. They think it's silly. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is your mindset. Don't look at it as this horrible, toxic, malicious thing. Look at it as a silly, goofy thing because that's what it is. It's pixels jumping up and down. And to call it teabagging even is kind of silly, right? Because the survivors aren't even fucking crouching on your face. They're just crouching in front of you. And you know what? I have a way for you to counter teabagging in the exit gate, okay? This is gonna blow your mind, all right? If you have a bunch of survivors crouching in the exit gate, here's what you do. You moonwalk in front of them and don't look at them. So they're watching you dance and you're not watching them. I guarantee you they'll get bored and they'll leave immediately. And even if they still wait till the last minute to leave, you won because they spent that whole time watching you moonwalk, watching you dance, and you didn't look at them. So you wasted their time. Not to mention, teabagging in the gate can easily get you extra kills. If you have Insidious and no one escapes death, you can just wait outside that exit gate. Yeah, get that sweet juicy down, put them on that hook and give them a sweet juicy slap. And we all know Blood Warden. They're waiting, they're teabagging. Oh, you don't have anywhere to go. Goodbye. Maybe you're somebody who teabagged in the gate and you got instant karma. That's okay. It's funny. Have a laugh. Speaking of having a good mindset, I wanted to share this clip from a streamer by the name of SgtFidget, who streams a lot of Dead by Daylight and many other games as well, and he was recently playing Texas Chainsaw, and one of the killers was teabagging him, and this is what happened.
Oh, you're gonna teabag me?
You see what I mean? And interactions like that can never happen if you're constantly just getting super bent out of shape and salty and you just turn it into this bitter thing that's gonna, follow you to the next few games and maybe even cause you to turn off the game for the night. It's like, it's not worth being in that negative headspace. And it's not necessarily an easy thing to get out of, but it's something you can work on. And I promise you, if you just look at it as silly, goofy pixels and play along, teabag them back, taunt them back, be silly, just embrace it. And I promise you, you'll have more fun. You'll stop caring. You won't be screaming at people after the match is over. It'll just, all in all, be a way more positive experience, and you'll probably enjoy the game more. Anyways, that's all I have to say, and that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for hearing me out. If you still disagree and think teabagging is a horrible, toxic thing, fair enough. But I promise you this video is not meant to bully any of you watching or psychologically torment you, and I hope that none of the teabags you witnessed in this video have psychologically tormented you in any way. And I apologize for not putting a trigger warning in advance. But thank you all so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.